Hi, welcome to the video. In this video, we're going to take a close look at how we're going to add and subtract fractions. Now, we're going to start off with adding and subtracting fractions that have a common denominator already, and then we're going to take a look at fractions that do not have a common denominator, and we're going to talk about how we work around that and how we address that. Okay, in this video, there's going to be two objectives. The first one is to be able to add and subtract fractions with a common denominator. And the second one is to be able to add and subtract fractions that do not have a common denominator. Now, as always, we start off with a few questions. What is a common denominator? What is a numerator? What is a denominator? Okay, so all of these things have been discussed throughout this series of videos. So if you're not quite sure what they are, it would be a really good idea for you to go back and look at the previous recordings. Okay, however, we will be exploring these questions as we proceed through the video. So previous videos include finding the highest common factor and lowest common multiple, writing a fraction as a percentage or a decimal, and finding equivalent fractions. And it's at that video that we look at common denominators. So I do recommend you go back and you take a look at those three videos. So let's get started. An equivalent fraction holds the same value as another fraction. It is just written in a different way. When we write our fractions so that they have the same bottom number, we say they have a common denominator. And we can see an example of common denominators just at the bottom, 5/8 and 3/8. They both have 8 at the bottom, and so 8 is the common denominator. When we add or subtract fractions, we have to have a common denominator before we can begin. Now, sometimes you may be given a question that already has a common denominator, but more often than not, you will not be given that. But it seems a really sensible, simple starting point to help build your confidence, so this is where we are going to begin. If you have already been given a common denominator, all you have to do is focus on adding or subtracting the numerators. That's the top number. So here we've been given a common denominator of 9. So all we have to do is focus on those top values, 2 plus 5, okay, which is going to give me 7. 7/9 is our final answer. Let's look at example 2. We've got 12/17, subtract 9/17. Now, since these already have a common denominator, we only need to focus on the numerators, and we've been told to subtract 9 from 12, which is going to leave me with 3. So my final answer is going to be 3/17. And this is where we turn things over to you to have a little go. So please do, by all means, jump on in and copy and complete these questions. Now remember to press pause, give yourself plenty of time to answer these questions, and then press play again, and we'll go through the answers together. Press pause now. Okay, hopefully you're ready for your answers, so please do get ready for those. If you need a little bit more time, then please press pause again. Okay, here we go. So remember, if the denominators are already the same, and we call that common denominators, all we have to do is deal with the numerators. That's the top numbers. So in the first question, 3 plus 1 is 4. So we have 4/5. Second question, 2 plus 3 is 5. So we have 5/11. 9 plus 1 is 10. We have 10/15. Now, 10/15, these are both multiples of 5. 2 times 5 for 10, 3 times 5 for 15. And that means we can simplify this fraction a little bit more if we divide by 5. 10 divided by 5 is going to give me 2. 15 divided by 5 will give me 3. So my final answer in its most simple form is 2/3. We should always try to give our answer in its lowest or simplest form where we can. This isn't always possible, so we do need to keep an eye out for those that are. Let's look at question 4 on the top right hand corner. This is a subtraction, and of course we've got 11/19, take away 9/19. That means they already have a common denominator, which means we just have to subtract 9 from 11 to give me 2/19, which cannot be simplified. 17 over 21, take away 8 over 21 means they have a common denominator already. And 17 take away 8 is 9. So I have 9 over 21. 9 over 21 appear in the 3 times table. Both 3 times 3 is 9 and 3 times 7 is 21. So since they're both in the 3 times table, they will both divide by 3, which will give me 3 over 7 as my simplest form answer. Last question, we can see both of these fractions are over 91, so they already have a common denominator. It just leaves me to subtract 27 from 31, giving me 4 over 91, which cannot be simplified. So do look out for those answers that can be simplified and simplify them where you can. There will be questions where you are not given a common denominator. This is really common in the exams. So we need to find our own common denominator before we can perform any form of calculation. When you do this, please remember the golden rule, which is what you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. And when we do this, we can only multiply or divide. We must not add, we must not subtract. Now, we have discussed this in previous videos, so if you're not quite sure about that, please do go back and watch those. Here's our example. 2 over 12 plus 3 over 6. We can see the numbers at the bottom are different to each other. However, I do know that if I divide 2 over 12, if I divide it by 2, I will have 1 over 6, because what you do to the top, you do to the bottom. Therefore, 2 divided by 2 will give me 1, 12 divided by 2 will give me 6, 1 over 6. But also, I could just multiply the second fraction by 2. So now we have a common denominator, we just have to deal with the numerators. And I've got 2 plus 6, which is 8, so it's 8 over 12. But that's not where this story ends, because 8 and 12 are both even numbers, which means they can divide by 2 and very possibly 2 again. Altogether, we can divide by 4. And this will give me 2 over 3 as my answer in its lowest possible form. Let's take a look at a few more examples. 5 over 7 plus 3 over 21. Again, we do not have a common denominator, but we do have options here. I can times all of the first fraction, 5 over 7, by 3, because 7 times 3 will give me 21. Which means I'd have to times the top by 3 as well to give me 15, so 15 over 21. Or I could just divide the second fraction by 3 to give me 1 over 7. We'll go for the multiplication option. 5 times 3, 7 times 3. Remember, what you do to the top, you must also do to the bottom. This is giving me 15 over 21. Now we have the same bottom number. So when we have the same bottom number, or common denominator, we leave it alone and we just deal with the numerators. That's the top numbers. And 15 plus 3 is 18. Now 18 and 21 will simplify. They're both in the 3 times table. 3 times 6 and 3 times 7. So we can simplify if we divide by 3. So this will give me 6 over 7 as my final answer in its simplest form. Example 2. We've got 5 over 20 plus 3 over 5. So I only have one option here. I cannot divide the first fraction by 4 because, well, whilst that will give me 5 at the bottom, I cannot do 5 divided by 4 and still have a whole number. So that's out of the question. So I turn my attention to the second fraction and I multiply this by 4 instead. So 3 times 4 is 12, 5 times 4 is 20, which gives me the common denominator. So 12 over 20 plus 5 over 20. And of course, 5 plus 12 is 17. 17 over 20. This answer cannot be simplified because 17 is a prime number, and so therefore we can't go any further than what it is. Now we are going to be doing a video at some point in the future about prime numbers, so please do keep a lookout for that one. As always, here are some examples for you to work through. Please do copy and complete as many questions as you can. Remember to press pause first in order to give you enough time to do this, then press play and we'll go through the answers together. Press pause now. Okay, hopefully you've given yourself enough time and you're now ready for the answers. If that is not the case, then again, please do press pause again. Okay, let's just take a look. On the first fraction, I could divide this by 2 to get 5, sorry, so I'd have 5 at the bottom of both fractions. However, remember what the golden rule, if what I do to the bottom I must do to the top, which means I could divide this by 2, I would have to divide this by 2 rather, to get 1.5 or 1.5. Since we do not want any fractions in my answer here in this simplified fraction or equivalent fraction, we cannot really do that. So I turn my attention to this first fraction and I'm simply going to multiply it by 2. 3 times 2 is 6, 5 times 2 is 10, 6 over 10. So this is our 6 over 10 and this is our 3 over 10. Since we are keeping the bottom number the same, we're not going to do anything to it. We'll just leave it alone. We've got 6 subtract 3, which is going to give me 9. 9 over 10. This will not simplify, so I leave it as it is. Second question, top right. Okay, and I'm going to multiply this second fraction by 4 to give me 16 over 44. And that is because whilst I can divide the bottom of this fraction by 4 to get 11, again, I have a problem dividing this by 4. So this is the fraction I'm going to choose to change. Of course, remember 16 over 44 is our second fraction now. 9 over 44 is the original fraction from the question. We're going to add the numerators together since we have a common denominator. Of course, this is going to give me 25 over 44, which cannot be simplified. 2/9 subtract 3 over 27. I do know that these are both in the 3 times table at the bottom, as well as 9 times table. So if I divide all of this fraction here by 3, I get 1 over 9. Okay, so I can do 2 take away 1, which is 1. My answer will be 1 over 9 at the end. Or I can times all of this by 3 to get 6 over 27. And that's the option that's been taken here. So we have our 6 over our 27. We have our 3 over our 27. 6 take away 3 is 3. So the answer here is 3 over 27, which will simplify since both the top and the bottom will divide by 3. So my final answer is 1 over 9 in its most simplified form. Please do forgive the alarm outside. Okay, so here we have 9 over 30 plus 4 over 6. Now again, I could divide this by 5 to get 6. Okay, however, okay, I can't divide this by 5, so I'm going to leave that fraction alone and focus on this one. So on this one here, I will just simply times this by 5 to get to 30 and times this by 5 to get to 20. And we can see we've got 20 over 30 over here and our 9 over 30 here. Since we have a common denominator, we leave that alone, we don't do anything with it. And I have 9 plus 20 is 29. So my final answer is 29 over 30. Let's move on. Now there will be occasions where you're presented questions where you may need to change both fractions. So this is where some people may get a little bit confused, so please do press pause if you need to at any point to give you time to process. Okay, and press play when you need to. So why do we need to change both fractions? Well, I cannot change 6 into 5 and I cannot change 5 into 6. So we have to have a different denominator to 5 and 6. Now, to achieve this, a really good plan is to take all of the first fraction and multiply it by the bottom of the second fraction, the bottom of the fraction opposite. 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 5 is 30. So our common denominator is going to be 30. Of course, once we've done that, we need to repeat the process to the second fraction. We take all of this fraction, we multiply it by the bottom of the opposite fraction. 5 times 6 is 30, 5 times 2 is 10. So we can see how we are multiplying all of the first fraction by 6 and all of the second fraction by 5. Remember, we are multiplying by the bottom of the opposite fraction. This is going to give me 18 plus 10, and our common denominator is 30. 18 plus 10, of course, is going to give me 28 over 30. 28 and 30 are both even, and therefore they're both divisible by 2. 28 divided by 2 is 14, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. My final answer in its most simplified form is 14 over 15. Now please do remember that if you do not simplify your answer to these questions in an exam, you are definitely going to be losing a mark. So please don't skip that step. Example 2. 8 cannot be changed to 7, 7 cannot be changed to 8. So we need a separate number for our denominator, and the way we're going to do that is multiply all of the fraction by the opposite of the by the bottom of the opposite fraction. So we're going to times 5 by 7 and 8 by 7. Once we've done that, we take all of this fraction and we multiply it by the bottom of the opposite fraction. So 8 times 7, 8 times 3. Okay, so you can see we multiplied all of this fraction by 7 and all of this fraction by 8. So this is going to give me 35 over 56, take away 24 over 56. And since we have the same denominator now, a common denominator, we've just written it down the one time, and we don't have to do anything with that now. 35 take away 24, well, that's going to leave me with 11, so it's 11 over 56. Once again, 11 is a prime number. It will not divide by anything apart from 1 and 11. And 56 will not divide by 56, so we're not divided by 11, I apologise. Therefore, we're done. We can't go any further. Again, please watch out for the video on prime numbers when it comes. This is where we give you the opportunity to work your way through some of these questions, so please remember to press pause, copy and complete the questions, then press play and check your answers. Give yourself plenty of time when you do this, guys. Press pause now. Well, hopefully you've given yourself enough time to go through those questions. If not, remember, just to give yourself a bit more time, press pause. Okay, so let's just take a look at these answers then. So remember, we're going to multiply all of one fraction by the bottom of the opposite fraction. 3 times 5, 3 times 4. All of the fraction multiplied by the bottom of the opposite fraction. 5 times 3, 5 times 2. Which is going to give me 12 over 15, take away 10 over 15. We have a common denominator, so we just have to deal with the numerators. 12 take away 10 gives me 2 over the 15. And of course, 2 is prime, so we can't go any further. Question 2. We take the fraction, we multiply it by the opposite, the bottom of the opposite fraction. So 7 times 4, 7 times 3. And of course, 4 over 7 will be multiplied by the 4. 4 times 7, 4 times 8. So 7 times 3 is 21. 7 times 4 is 28, so 21 over 28. And of course, 4 times 4 is 16, 7 times 4 is 28, so 16 over 28. 21 take away 16 is 5, so we're left with 5 over 28. The number 5 is prime. We cannot cancel that fraction down any further. Third question, 2 over 9. I need to multiply it by the 5. So 5 times 9 is 45. 5 times 2 is 10. Take the second fraction, multiply it by the bottom of the first fraction. 9 times 5 is 45, so we've got the common denominator. And 9 times 1 is 9. So we get 10 plus 9 is 19 over 45. So remember that 19 is a prime number. Again, we will talk more about those again in the future. So that means I cannot simplify that fraction any further. I've got 3 over 4 plus 1/6. So I need to multiply all of the 3/4 or 3 over 4 by 6. I need to multiply the 1 over 6 by 4. So 6 over 3 is 18. 4 times 6 is 24. And 4 times 1 is 4. So I'm going to have 18 plus 4 is 22. And of course, it's over 24, our common denominator. Now, this gives me a fraction where the numerator and the denominator are both even, which means they're both divisible by 2. So 22 divided by 2 is 11. 24 divided by 2 is 12. So my final answer in its most simplest form is 11 over 12. So do, again, be aware of those that can cancel down, because that's what you need to be doing. Now that concludes the content, guys. So it just leaves me to remind you that in the next video, we are going to be looking at multiplying and dividing fractions. So please do keep a lookout for that one. I hope you've gained something from this one today. If you have, please do let me know. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.